In the year 2379, humanity's relentless thirst for knowledge led to the discovery of the Rift Gateway, a colossal anomaly at the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy. It was a pulsating void of shifting colors, an unnatural tear in the fabric of space. Initially dismissed as a cosmic phenomenon, the gateway grew in intensity, emitting incomprehensible signals that defied human understanding. Desperate to unlock its secrets, the Unified Stellar Coalition, USC, assembled an elite crew aboard the state-of-the-art research vessel Eclipse. Their mission: to study the gateway, decipher its signals, and determine whether it posed a threat to humanity's interstellar colonies. The crew consisted of 24 individuals, each an expert in their field, led by Commander Ellison Drake, a decorated explorer known for his unshakable resolve. Among them were Dr. Evelyn Hart, a xenobiologist specializing in unknown life forms, and Malcolm Strauss, a cryptolinguist obsessed with breaking the gateway's enigmatic code. They were not prepared for what awaited them. The Eclipse. Asterisk entered the gateway after weeks of preparation. The journey through the anomaly was a disorienting experience. Light twisted into spirals, gravity fluctuated, and the fabric of reality seemed to ripple like water. The ship's AI, Aurora, struggled to maintain stability. When the turbulence subsided, the crew found themselves in an alien dimension. The laws of physics were warped. Massive structures floated in a void of black and purple, glowing faintly with bioluminescent veins. The air outside the ship was not a vacuum, but a dense substance that shimmered like liquid glass. At first, the dimension seemed devoid of life. But then came the sound. A faint, melodic hum resonated through the ship, growing louder as they ventured deeper. It wasn't random. It was structured, almost like a song. The crew named it the Abyssal Hymn. It seemed to emanate from the very fabric of the dimension, vibrating through the hull of the ship and into their bones. Dr. Strauss worked tirelessly to decode the hymn, convinced it was a form of communication. But as days passed, the crew began experiencing disturbing symptoms. It started with the dreams. Crew members reported vivid nightmares of alien landscapes filled with grotesque, shifting forms. Some dreamed of being watched by countless eyes in the darkness, while others felt their minds invaded by whispers in an unknown tongue. Dr. Hart observed that the dreams seemed to correlate with proximity to certain glowing structures outside the ship. Against her warnings, Commander Drake ordered an away team to explore one of the formations, a spire-like construct floating aimlessly in the void. The team consisted of 6 crew members in advanced exosuits. They tethered themselves to the Eclipse and floated toward the spire. As they approached, the Abyssal Hymn grew louder, pulsating like a heartbeat. Inside the spire, the walls pulsed with a fleshy, organic texture, glowing with rhythmic light. At the center was an altar-like structure, covered in symbols that seemed to shift when observed. Dr. Strauss recorded the patterns, muttering that they resembled fractal languages. Then the team lost contact. The crew aboard the Eclipse watched in horror as the away team's vital signs flatlined one by one. Their cameras captured glimpses of shadowy forms, tall and amorphous, with limbs that extended unnaturally. The last transmission was a blood-curdling scream before static consumed the feed. Commander Drake ordered the Eclipse to retreat, but the ship refused to move. Aurora, the ship's AI, reported that an unknown force was holding them in place. Systems began to fail one by one, and the Abyssal Hymn intensified, now laced with discordant tones that resonated with a sickening, primal fear. Dr. Strauss became increasingly erratic, claiming he could hear the hymn speaking to him. He barricaded himself in the comms lab, scrawling alien symbols across the walls. When Dr. Hart and a security team broke in, they found him mutilated, his eyes gouged out and his mouth sewn shut with strands of flesh. In his blood, he had written, "Soon the Riftborn arrived. They did not walk or float. They bled into existence, oozing through cracks in reality. Their forms were incomprehensible, shifting masses of eyes, mouths, and writhing tendrils. They exuded an aura of despair, their presence twisting the minds of those who beheld them. One by one, the crew succumbed. Some clawed at their skin, claiming they could feel the Riftborn burrowing inside them. Others vanished into thin air, their screams echoing long after. Dr. Hart discovered the horrifying truth. The Abyssal Hymn was not a message, but a lure, a siren's call to prey. The Riftborn were predators, feeding on the fear and sanity of their victims. The glowing structures were nests, pulsating with the larvae of their kind. With the water crude dwindling, Commander Drake devised a desperate plan. Using the ship's experimental core, a quantum singularity drive, they would detonate the Eclipse, collapsing the gateway and trapping the Riftborn in their dimension. Dr. Hart and the remaining survivors prepared the ship for detonation, while the Riftborn hunted them through the corridors. The once brilliant halls of the Eclipse were now bathed in darkness, lit only by the flickering glow of emergency lights. Aurora's voice, once calm and steady, now crackled with distorted tones, as if the Riftborn were corrupting her systems. In the final moments, Hart and Drake reached the core. As the Riftborn closed in, Drake stayed behind to manually activate the detonation, buying Hart enough time to escape. In a pod, the last thing she saw was the Eclipse imploding, the explosions swallowing the gateway in a cascade of light and shadow. Dr. Hart's escape pod drifted through space for weeks before being recovered by a USC patrol. Her debriefing was fragmented, her mind fractured by the trauma. But the Abyssal Hymn followed her. In the quiet of her quarters, she could still hear it, a faint melody that promised the Riftborn were not done with humanity. Somewhere in the dark corners of the universe, they were waiting, and they were still hungry.
If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and leave a comment. See you in the next one.